Good evening, folks. This is Chaplain Mark. Actually, this is Pastor Mark, who's going to give you your Sunday sermon about making it through the storms. I thought it only appropriate. I decided I have eaten. See, whenever these storms have happened, I buy so much junk that I end up, I get a pizza so we can just cook something in the air fryer or eat it cold for a few days. And other comfort foods. So I'm out walking to burn some calories. But since we didn't have a Sunday sermon today, let me talk about the storms, about making it through the storms. Now, in Acts chapter 27, there was a shipwreck, and Paul was on a boat, and he told them, don't sail this way, don't go this way, and nobody listened to him. And he had fasted for quite some time. And then he told them, he said, I told y'all not to sail this way, and you shouldn't have. But I promise you this, God is not going to let one life be lost. Take heart, take courage, he said. So in the midst of these storms, we're in literal storms. 3 weeks, we have not had church because we're in the midst of storms. Why they keep coming on the weekends, I'm not sure. But as we prepare for them, I kept waiting till last minute, hoping maybe it'll just be a little cold. But no, there was enough ice that it was dangerous. And there's a difference between being super spiritual and being stupid. But sometimes people confuse the two. But Paul said, even though we're in the midst of the storm, take heart, because of God. I'm promising you as God's prophet that no harm is going to befall anybody in this. And see, when they shipwrecked, they wanted to kill all the prisoners, because if they were to lose a prisoner, they were going to lose their life because they worked for the Roman army. Man, if you think our president's a tyrant, you should have worked for Rome. But there's a reason that they were terrified when Jesus rose from the dead, because they were like, oh no, they stole the body that we were supposed to be guarding. And so they were terrified and went and hid. But anyway, another story. But there's a few reasons why we need to have confidence in God in the midst of our storms. And the first one is God's sovereignty. Remember that God is sovereign over everything. Whether you like it, whether I like it, what I love is at the end of the day, there's always truth. Truth is what will be there. Jesus said he is the way, the truth, and the life. And he said the truth will set you free. So remember, God's sovereignty and the truth will always win out. God is sovereign over everything. And we can trust in that. We can live in that. We can trust in that. We can also trust in God's presence. He'll always be with us. The book of Isaiah says, even through the fire and through the wind, God says, I will always be with you. Always. He says in Matthew chapter 28, he says, I will be with you even to the end of the age. So remember that we have, for one, God is sovereign over everything and anything that happens in this world. 2, God's presence will be with us. For those of us who are the called according to his purposes. But nonetheless, God never leaves us and never forsakes us. He will always be with us. We may not like the answer that he has for us, but he will always be with us. 3 is that God has purpose. Remember that God has purpose in everything that he does, and that we have a purpose. And if there's anything I could bottle up for the world, listen, if I could show everybody heaven, because sometimes I just want people to know the Jesus that I know. So if I could show everyone heaven, that might bring a few more people to know Jesus. And I remember there was once a preacher that said, if I could show you hell, oh my gosh, everybody would want to know Jesus. But you know what gets me? It's 2 things. One is peace. The peace that transcends all understanding that I have. People who believe in God's sovereignty and God's presence, you don't see them with a lot of anxiety problems. You don't see them with a lot of ulcers and other things that happen from stress. And not that you can't have medical ulcers, but I'm just saying, you don't see them being overly stressful because they believe in the sovereignty of God. And if something bad happens, they know that God is still in control. So, but God's purpose says that we always, always, always have a purpose in our life. And that's the other thing. If I could bottle up God's purpose and God's peace for people who don't know it, I feel like they would understand. And every day of the rest of my life, I know that I have purpose in life. Whether or not I'm wearing this uniform or working at the job I'm working now or whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm going, I know that I have a purpose to fulfill. So God's purpose is also tremendously important in the times of all of these. And I'll give some corroborating scriptures if y'all like when I'm done. But also, remember that God will give you his peace when you believe in his sovereignty, and when you can accept and know that his presence is all around you at all times, and know that he has purpose. Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for good for those who are called, for the elect, for those who are called according to God's purposes, not ours, but God's. And I have seen too many things and watched that sometimes may or not be according to my purposes, but they will always work out for the better for God's purposes. God does want the best for our lives. Sometimes that involves not having happiness right now amidst these storms, but it always involves the best for our lives, because he can see the beginning, the middle, and the end, whereas all we can see is today, it's the present. So if you can trust in his sovereignty, if you can trust in his presence, if you can trust in his purpose, you can have his peace. And the peace of God transcends all understanding. That's Philippians 4:7. So that's a quick synopsis of your Sunday sermon in the midst of the storms. And I hope that you guys are all doing okay. I don't know of anybody around my area that's lost power. I do know some folks who lost heat, but they had a backup sense of heat and stuff. So here's to hoping, although I'm hearing about weather next weekend again, hoping that next weekend we can all meet in our respective churches and just love on one another and realize how important church is, the body of Christ, how much we can appreciate one another, being there for one another, and just love on one another. And hey, if y'all get a chance, love on your pastor. He or she probably didn't want to cancel services this week either, and might have enjoyed a little break or some family time, but we also have a purpose that we want to fulfill because God's called us for a reason. So just love on them when you get back, if you get opportunity. But hey, I love you guys. This has been a little bit, about a third of whatever your morning sermon probably would have been. So love y'all. God bless. Chaplain / pastor / just a regular old good guy, Mark. And stay safe out there. Be safe. And if you need some help, reach out. We were never supposed to walk this earth alone. We were never supposed to have the Christian walk alone. Yes, we need to be willing to, but it was always supposed to be about leaning on our brothers and sisters and being a community together. So, love y'all. God bless. Take care. Chaplain Mark. One more day, 1% better.